IMHOTEP Gary Byrd is an award-winning radio broadcaster, poet, songwriter, and executive producer. I sat down with him at the WWRL studios in Queens, New York City, when his reputation in New York City radio was on the rise. Known at different times as the Global Black Experience and the Gary Byrd Experience.
I had done Shakespeare for like about 3 years. I was just about ready to go into high school. I did a little play called The In Crowd and done at the Neighborhood House Theater, just for the summer, just for the little kids. At that time, as a matter of fact, the record was out by Dopey Gray. The In Crowd, and this is why we wrote the play, because we figured it would be a very hip idea, and that kids would flock to see it, that kind of a thing. So the night that we were at the play, we finished it, and so a cat comes in and says, "Hey, I'd like to tape the play. I'm from radio station WUFO. My name is Hank Cameron." So he had us in a little room. When my line came up and they went like, "Come to the mic," I really boomed out really loud. And when I did that, Hank, the disc jockey, sort of looked at me like, "Hey, wait a minute. What is this little kid doing with that voice?" He immediately asked me, had I ever thought about going into radio. Now, I wanted to be an actor. So as a result of that particular meeting, Hank suggested that I get together with him. I was about 15 then. We got together and started rapping. He, in learning about some of the things that I had done previous to that, because I'd won some speaking championships, he said, "Well, hey man, you should get into radio."
As his career took off, Gary Byrd was inspired as a communicator to pursue more writing to express his worldview.
Two individuals who influenced me, Curtis Mayfield and Sly Stone. The first time I heard Choice of Colors, I heard it on an album. And when I heard it, it stunned me so much. I'll never forget that because I hadn't been here that long.
Which one would you choose, my brothers?
To actually realize that someone could put that much in a record, that much meaning into something. And then right after that, I went out and I was sent the Stand album by Sly. And I had been turned on to Sly, but hadn't really taken the time to really sit down and break it down. I just knew Sly was really into something. But when I heard the Stand album, and immediately went back and traced and examined carefully all of his music, and suddenly realized what he was attempting to say, those two particular figures really took me into a thing where I began to study music. Every day I would get off from the radio station and go home and just listen to music.
The environmental shift from Buffalo, New York to New York City affected Byrd's desire to create poetry that would have an empowering influence on the culture.
The urge hit me to write, and I actually, I really thought I was going off my rock, but I suddenly wanted to say something. Like, I'd hang around Harlem and I'd just watch. That was a different thing for me because in Buffalo, I have never seen anything to compare with that. And then the people, the total warlike atmosphere that was down here, strikes and bombings and the whole thing, it was unreal. So that for me, it was like coming to a new planet. Sitting down and saying, "Wow."
Every brother ain't a brother.
Was the sort of a reaction of watching and looking into one person and seeing the cat say,
"Every sister ain't a sister."
"Yeah, man, but you gotta dig something, brother. I'm a brother." And the cat is saying, "I'm a brother." And hey, man, he's selling dope to a 4-year-old kid here. He's saying, "I'm a brother," and he just got through offing the cat over here. And you're kind of saying, well, what is this, man? Where is this at? Where is this really at? And these particular thoughts would flow out. And I write by titles. I think of a title and I write it. And what happens is that, poetry is like not the only thing I write, but poetry is the one thing that is of a nature that I can do on the radio effectively and get away with it.
Everything black just ain't black. And baby, that's a fact.
IMHOTEP Gary Byrd defines social struggle this way.
The problem is not a problem that we're dealing with of color. We're talking about economics. An economic stockpile that would just take the world away if they could really dig it and have a chance to dig it in one big lump.
Byrd challenges our stereotypes and reinforces his philosophy.
Let's realize who we are. Black is beautiful. Let's dig that, man. Let's really dig that black is beautiful. Let's dig a thing called soul that we have. Let's dig a people who are caught in a situation who have responded magnificently. But let's also dig that, hey, we can't be the racist. You dig?
Right.
We can't do it, man. Like, we can't go down the same path. And black capitalism at its worst can be just as negative as white capitalism at its worst.
When I arrived at Super 16 for my conversation with Gary Byrd, all of the studios were being used, so Gary and I went to the front porch. It's an enclosed porch of the WWRL building in Queens. We were in the flight path of LaGuardia Airport, and that's why you hear some of the jet rumble in a few points of the conversation, which lasted well over an hour. I've given you the highlights.